All right, folks, welcome back to Mike and Maurice's Mind Escape. We have episode number 258 tonight, and we are live. Tonight, we have a special podcast. Tonight, we are announcing a new, for me, it's a side project. For Toby and Shane, it is a new endeavor. We are all very excited. We are here to announce that we are starting a podcast called the Roswell UFO Symposium. And it's going to be sponsored by the Roswell Daily Record, which Toby works for. And we are very, very excited. It's going to be amazing. But before we get started, if you want, we do have a LinkTree created. There are no episodes yet. We'll probably do the first episode sometime in the next 2 weeks. So look for that. But if you want to follow our LinkTree, it's the links down below. You can follow Toby on Twitter. I have his handle down there. It's RDR Incident. You can also follow our producer Shane. It's at Old Vet Symposium. And yeah, it's going to be awesome. So before we get started too, if you want to support Mind Escape, all you have to do is click the Linktree link down below. I've got a Patreon, which I'm going to upload a new Patreon segment we did with Leah from last week, probably tonight or tomorrow. Tons of stuff on there. So if you're interested and you like a lot of the guests that we've had, there's a good chance we've done Patreon segments with them. So go check that out. And there's a merch store, which with some of my amazing designs and doodles and sketches. And so go check that out. And yeah, if you want to support the show, all you have to do is go to Apple Podcast or Spotify, leave us a nice 5-star review, and I really appreciate that. So, but without further ado, welcome on the show, Toby. And Shane's been on for a while now, so we don't need to say that. But,
thanks for having me on.
yeah. So yeah, we're excited. This whole thing kind of came together very, very quickly. And I thought it was a really interesting opportunity. As everybody knows, on Mind Escape, we talk about UFOs, but probably 25 to 33% of the time, it's not something we discuss every episode. So I'm very, very interested in the phenomenon, and while I've covered it in the past, I think that this is an excellent opportunity to talk to a bunch of new people in that field, and also people that have been around for a long time that maybe, I haven't conversed with or had dialogues with in the past. So I'm really excited about that. But Toby, why don't you give us a little bit of your background on this topic, what you're doing at the Roswell Daily Record, and how all this stuff plays together?
Yeah, so basically I started at the Roswell Daily Record back in 2002. Initially I was brought on as a page designer, so you're, laying out the articles and the photos, getting them ready to send back to the press. From there I became more of a photographer as well. So I spent a lot of years, going out to crime scenes and taking pictures and just seeing crazy stuff. I mean, um, then from there, I switched to IT, which, as you know, Mike, is so much fun. And then after that, I was moved over to the design editor, which is what I'm doing now. And on the side, I'm actually going through our digitized archives and finding anything associated with UFOs, aliens, even high strangeness, cryptozoology. Just the paper's been around since I believe. It's been around for 127 years this year. Don't quote me
Wow.
on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Well, you
So
work
this
for a
was,
newspaper, so we are going to quote you on that. So.
I said off the record.
So yeah, so how does the record, I think a lot of people have heard about Roswell, but how does the record play into this whole phenomenon?
uh, well, I guess it all goes back to July of 1947. I mean, obviously, Mr. Brazel found wreckage on his ranch, came into town, reported it to the sheriff's office. Then the Army and the Air Force became involved, and Walter Haut wrote what's now considered probably one of the most famous military memos in history. The announcement that they had recovered a craft crash, an actual flying disc. So the newspaper received the received it, they ran it, and then the next day the military came out and said, "Well, wait, never mind. It was a weather balloon." Just some strings and some tinfoil and popsicle sticks. So we actually had a sister paper at the time, which would print a morning edition called the Roswell Morning Dispatch. And the day after we ran the famous UFO headline, we ran a headline of them retracting their press release, basically.
So very fascinating. And even though we've called it the Roswell UFO Symposium, we are going to talk about a lot of different UAP, UFO stuff. It's not just going to be about Roswell. But I think that it's important because you could even say that whatever you think about the phenomenon, the mythology that we currently look at this, or the mythological lens, or however you want to put it, the way we look at this right now kind of starts at Roswell, right? Because even though there might have been incidents and sightings before that, that's really the main one that got this whole thing kicked off to where everybody knows about it. It's probably the most recognizable case, aside from like some of the more modern stuff like the Tic Tac and stuff. So
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, it could have just been another story lost to history until people like Stanton Friedman came in and reignited interest in the case, started doing actual research, trying to get the truth about what happened. He got all of these different witnesses to come forward and give testimony to what they actually saw. I mean, honestly, if that effort hadn't been launched in the 80s, Roswell probably wouldn't even be mentioned in ufology today.
absolutely. So Shane, you kind of put this whole thing kind of together. I mean, obviously we have the connections through Toby and everything, but you reached out to me, you kind of put this all together. Your positive vibes and everything you've been doing kind of helped bring this whole thing together. So why don't you talk about that from your end of things?
No one told me I'd be talking on a podcast, man. I just thought I was here to just stare and be a teller or something to your pen. I'm just messing around, man.
No, dude, you're
So,
talking now the whole time, so get ready.
yeah, no, one of the things that I don't know. I guess one of the things I did right after my experience was when I first started having my experience was I started buying all this equipment, and then I got it in my head that I wanted to speak to PTSD, addiction, surviving all those different things before I even knew what an experiencer was. Then a million synchronicities later, here we are. I just happened to own everything, so I threw it all together, and now I'm here for people to laugh at. Positive vibes, do good stuff, right? I can speak to a lot of things. Let me show you this. This is how mad I was with PTSD and stuff, just trying to figure out, how to help. So I used to go to read white papers. So I don't know if you can see this. So each one of these, I think if I can throw it over here. Each one of those is a white paper, PTSD, addiction, all these different, covering these different topics. And I just couldn't figure out how I would have a platform to help speak, give back to people who've helped me. Wounded warrior is a big one, things like that. I owe people. So what I can do is I can tell you what not to do, for sure. I can tell you some of the good things that I've done and speak to a lot of these things. So it's kind of nice to have a voice, right? Everyone wants to be part of a community anyway. So I'm very appreciative to be here. And finger guns.
So Shane, he hosts a ton of Twitter Spaces, and I actually met him doing Twitter Spaces. I've been jumping in a lot of the UFO Twitter ones for the last few months now, hosting my own as well. I kind of do the mind escape thing though, where they're not all on UFO stuff, but yeah, I met Shane through there, and we started clicking. He sent me a couple nice messages, and from there, we just really vibed off each other. I like his positivity. I like how he looks at the phenomenon, and also he plays, the lovable idiot. But dude, Shane's really smart. He reads a lot. He knows a ton about a ton of different things. So don't let him fool you, people. And I think that for me, it was just like I said, like when we got all into a group chat, me, Toby, Shane, it was just effortless banter back and forth and jokes and vibes and everything. So yeah, that's something that I really enjoy. Yeah, and Mind Escape's not going anywhere. We're going to continue to do the show. Maurice will be back at the end of the month. We have Rick Strassman on the 30th, I believe. So we're gonna keep rolling, longer episodes than ever, better guests than ever. Don't worry about Mind Escape, but this is just an extra new project that I felt like I had time for, but also, we're working on the UFO UAP documentary and Experiencer documentary, and I've been in the spaces a lot. I feel like the only way to truly do this thing justice is to immerse yourself in it. And I've been fascinated with it for a while, but I felt like, now's a good time to just dive in and see what's what. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. In terms of podcast, we're still working out a lot of the details, but we're going to try and do it live, like how we do Mind Escape. We're going to have lots of amazing guests. I don't know. Do you want to, Toby? Do you feel comfortable mentioning some names, or you want to hold off, or is there anything you want to?
I mean, yeah, we could name just a few.
Yeah.
Start with we're gonna have on Bryce Sable. We're gonna have on Ben Hansen, um, Nick Pope. I believe David Marler. So that's just a few of
Yeah,
who we're gonna
and
have.
there's a lot more, and there's actually lot of interesting names being thrown around and ideas and stuff like that, as well as like some celebrities. So, like I said, I'm interested when Maurice and I, or we have occasional people from UFO Twitter on, good buddies like Chris Wolford and Dan Zetterstrom and everything. When we have them on, we'll talk about it usually, or Maurice and I'll talk about it. But again, this is just another way for me to kind of discuss a topic that I talk about a lot. And I feel like, I feel like this was the perfect time to do it. And I think when we get into this, I think we're going to not just have these amazing interviews with people, but we're also going to, I feel like, come across new research, different perspectives that we didn't even think about before. So yeah, I'm kind of where I was going to go with the UFO stuff on my own. So I feel like it's a good time to start conversing with people. That's why I've been doing a lot of the spaces and stuff like that too, as I mentioned before. So how do you look at the phenomena, Toby? Like, when did you first get into it, and then like what are you trying to do with it now, or like how are you approaching the phenomenon now?
Well, growing up in Roswell, I've always had an interest. Obviously, you go down Main Street here, and the light posts are alien heads. And as a child, I spent a lot of time at the UFO museum, talking to a lot of the older researchers, reading books. Um, so it's something I've been interested in my whole life. My father, I would say, is what got me into it. Back in about the 70s, the German Air Force would come and train here because we actually have at the Roswell Airfield. It's one of the, I think it was at the time the fourth biggest runway space in the world. So my dad was at a barbecue with all these, high-ranking German Air Force people, and they all look up and they actually see what is he described as like a pendulum, two balls with a rod in the middle, only it was huge.
Right.
So they watched as this object went straight up, then slowly began to tilt like a pendulum until it got spinning fully and it just shot off.
Interesting.
So the officers called the actual air base and nobody knew what the hell it was. So as soon as my dad told me that story, I was hooked. I was hooked.
Yeah, that's interesting. Have you had your
And,
own sightings?
yeah, multiple. We're actually considered somewhat of a hotspot. I've seen triangular craft. I've seen just giant red lights dropping orange lights. There's been quite a few actually. So what I do is I just try and talk with people that have experienced this. Just to get everybody's perspective because I feel like we don't know what we're dealing with. And I feel like a lot of different options that are on the table could all be right at the same time, if that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and Shane, I know you haven't really talked much on Mind Escape so far, even though you've been on a couple episodes. Is there anything you want to add about your own experiences? Because you are an experiencer.
I'll just kind of reiterate for people that are joining us that don't know. So, uh, hi, I'm Shane. I'm a combat veteran, survivor, and experiencer. Witness, whatever you want to call it. It's been continuous for about 2 years now, on and off, here and there. I live near Hanford. Loads of videos. Um, there are articles coming out now that it's around here. I've seen some stuff that doesn't make sense. I've seen some nuts and bolts, but the stuff that gets me is the stuff that doesn't make sense. You're just talking about when you're saying your dad's experience. Was it your dad you were talking about,
Yes.
Toby? Uh, I know sometimes I think the stuff that gets to me is when I see something and my mind can't figure out what it is. That feeling, like as your brain's circling through, okay, it's this, right? One night I was out taking photographs of the stars, and in a series of photographs, I got something moving. But as I looked to the right, I saw a series of 3 red lights that looked like lasers, but they were all the same length, and they were the same distance apart, going from the sky to the ground, just quick. I mean, nothing changed, no boom, nothing like that. And I just kind of like, wait, what is this? All over near Hanford. And so I've got a continuous experience, a wide varying experience. So I'll always keep saying, if you haven't read Operation Trojan Horse, Keel, Eighth Tower, Keel, or Belay, you're way behind.
I saw 2 different people tweet about that today. Actually, somebody it's like, I can't believe I haven't read this book before, and then somebody else is like, that's weird. It's like a weird synchronicity because I definitely saw a few people tweet about that today. Which I mean, it's a popular book on the topic, but I just thought that was weird.
Let me ask
Uh,
you. Let me ask you a question, Mike. What was your introduction book to the topic?
book. I'm trying to think. What was it? I could probably find it actually. Let me pull up my Kindle here because everything's on there once I started this. I mean, I've read stuff on it before, like a long time ago. Like there was like a couple books in our library at school that had like multiple mysteries in it, like that kind of a thing. I forget what they're called, but we had a couple of those in our library.
History's Mysteries?
No. If I saw the cover, I would be able to
I had
tell
some
you.
Time Life book. It was like a series of books, and one of them had
Yeah.
like cryptids, UFOs. I still remember that.
Mysteries of the Unknown was the name of that book series. That's actually the first one I read too.
Um,
Deep cuts. Way to go,
and
Toby.
actually, like I started listening to like Coast to Coast and like Talk AM radio, people calling in talking about like weird alien UFO. Like when I was
See,
like probably like 10, and that kind of gave me like nightmares about like aliens and grays and stuff like that. So before I even started reading stuff, that was the kind of stuff that was going on with me. I'm trying to think what was the
see,
first.
I've approached it backwards. I remember my great grandfather was a pilot, World War II, Korea. He had encounters with Foo Fighters twice, right? I kind of think he was crazier than a loon. I didn't believe in nothing till I left, 2020? And then I started seeing this stuff. Shit, I still didn't believe. I thought I was losing my mind. That's why the mental health stuff is important here, right? By the
Yeah.
way, one of the things that's really cool and that's going on now, if people are watching, is Ted Rowe and a couple people are doing like a reach out thing for doctors, mental health professionals, let them know this stuff's real. Because right now, there's people either on medication or getting a diagnosis that they may not need because I've even showed videos to professional and to mental health. They don't care. It's still not real to them, and it's a big problem if you think about the fact that you have to compartmentalize this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you need some help, you need somebody to talk to. It's not okay to only talk about this. So, speaking of 22 veterans a day commit suicide, let's stop that, right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Shane's right, and you'll hear a lot about this because obviously Shane is a vet, number one, and number two, he kind of overcame some pretty incredible circumstances to be clean and sober and productive today. So we're going to do like a whole episode on it. I'll actually have Shane on Mind Escape where he explains all that. But so Shane, so my Mothman Prophecies was the first one, because I saw the movie when we were in high school, and then like a short while after that, I didn't even know there was a book, and then I found out there was a book, and then I checked out the book, and then from there, I think the Eighth Tower, that came a little bit later on, actually. Yeah, I mean, all that stuff. I've read all of them by now. I can't even, The Invisible College, American Cosmic. I've read pretty much all the, Young's book, you know. Actually, I read that one kind of recently, but yeah.
Have you guys? What was it? Go ahead, Mike. I completely forgot what I was going to say. That I was going to ask you about Mothman Prophecies.
Yeah.
Anyone that's listening that hasn't read the book, if you've seen the movie, you're doing yourself a disservice. There's quite a few other stories in there that it's not even Mothman. It's more like what's going on around that area at that time. And it's pretty crazy hot.
It's like paranormal too, right? Like that. Yeah. That was what kind of like.
Indrid Cold's one of my favorite stories.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, is about the Indrid Cold thing.
That's a total. And the movie puts them together, but that's a totally different thing in the book. It kind of throws them in like it's the same thing, but in actuality, Indrid Cold was an experience a totally separate guy had. He was driving home, and something stopped in the road, UFO, whatever you want to call it, and a human-looking man with said the weirdest gaze and grin, like a Cheshire cat, kind of just floated to the car. And he was speaking to him without talking. And he was saying, don't be scared, put your window down.
Right.
And what most people don't even know is he actually wrote a book. You can probably find it on Amazon or something. Chase, take care of that, please. He actually wrote a book about a series of encounters that kept happening. Indrid Cold supposedly kept coming back to his house.
Yeah. I remember reading about that. It wasn't just the one incident on the road. Afterwards, he would keep coming to him and speaking to him, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
And the weird thing about that book too is like it's not just the UFO stuff, it's paranormal stuff, but then it's also like about like these weird humans or humanoids, I don't even know what you want to call it, that like humans, but they're like very like they don't know how to do basic things, like, and they're like dressed kind of unusual, they're doing unusual things. There's some really weird things in that book, so I really recommend people check it out. Again, I got into it because Mothman the movie, obviously, I was like 13 or 14. And
this is why I keep
didn't
saying,
even know about John Keel at that time. So
this is why I keep saying Keel and Vallejo, because the Hopkinsville Goblins case, you've got Bigfoot, you've got Indrid Cold, Mothman, Dogman. People have reported these different things, right? Now, depending on what you want to take seriously, there's a lot of cases like the Dogman that officers are involved.
I'll tell you what I'm not taking seriously, and that's that hat, Shane. I'm not taking that seriously because I'm not taking Bigfoot seriously. You know what? I'm not taking Bigfoot seriously, bro.
What are you talking about, bro?
Yeah, this guy's...
He's everywhere.
Have you ever seen Bigfoot? Have you ever seen him?
Huh?
Have you ever seen Bigfoot?
No, but he sees me. He's my protector.
Okay. Yeah. If you could find me some Bigfoot bones, we'll talk. But
have you ever seen Shane and Bigfoot in the same room? I'm just saying.
There's actually a good documentary on Bigfoot where it's not actually Bigfoot, but it's kind of like a true crime story. It's pretty interesting.
I actually watched it.
Did you like that on Hulu?
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I did. What's it called?
I think it's just called like Bigfoot.
Kills?
Yeah, something
Bigfoot murder or something like that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Was that the one where they're like the marijuana farmers?
Yeah.
Killed by Bigfoot.
Yeah. Don't give it away. Don't give it away.
Sorry.
Don't give
Way
it
to go, Toby.
Spoiler alert. He didn't ruin
That's
it.
what I'm here for.
He didn't ruin it.
I'm being serious. Wait a second here. I understand you're less woo than me, buddy, but I'm going to get you on the woo train. I'm telling you, Bigfoot and all of this is intertwined. There's a case in California that happened in the 70s where these guys were going to the national park and they were building little lean-tos, right? And they weren't supposed to. And for the series of 2 or 3 years, they were recording these vocalizations that no one's been able to say what it is. It's not human. It's not ape. And it sounds closest to some kind of an ape. And on top of that, they were having poltergeist activity and witnessing orbs and crafts.
That was the bikers, right?
Yes, it was. It was the bikers.
Okay.
Yes. That's right, Chase. Woo woo. That's right, Chase.
And if you see Chase down there, follow Chase too. Give Chase some love. Do you know what his Twitter handle is? Is it at Chase?
Hi, Kyle. What's up, everybody? Glad you're
Um,
here to check me out. Watch me
but yeah,
humiliate
follow. We're
myself.
gonna call him Young Chase because he's young and he's our social media guy slash. I don't even know what you would call it.
Yeah, he
He's
already
like,
booked an appointment. Get our little what is that logo tattooed on his forehead.
are
He's
you
straight up
serious?
hardcore.
If
He's
you do
hardcore,
that, if
man.
you really do that,
Does he know
Chase,
that?
you can be on the show if you really do that. So we'll put a camera directly on your forehead the whole time. Um, no, but yeah, all this stuff's fascinating. I mean, so like, let's talk about our roles on the podcast. I don't know if you guys, for me, I'm gonna continue what I do on Mind Escape, which is open-minded, kind of skeptical. Obviously, I believe in a lot of metaphysical
I roll.
things. However, it's based in more of what we can't, things we can't quantify that we think that there's something there. That's where a lot of my interest comes in. So I'm, I'll still be coming at it from the philosophical slash scientific slash, um, just like the whole metaphysics in general. I'll be the resident metaphysician on the show. Toby, uh, what are you bringing to the table, bro?
I would say I bring more of a UFO investigative angle to it. Working at the Roswell Daily Record, we obviously get a ton of emails with UFO related things, and I try to look into everything we get. Recently, I received a call from an elderly gentleman in California. Now, he said he and his wife witnessed a crash site of an actual UFO back in 1981. He claimed he still has pieces of the metal and photos of the bodies. So, in speaking to him, he offered to send them secure mail to the newspaper. I never got them, and so that's just one of the many crazy things we get. We had a guy in Santa Fe that claimed he had an alien arm with the laser gun still attached that he was willing to sell. So I look into all these things and I speak with people around town and online that have experiences or that have, eyewitness accounts, just testimony, photo, videos. So that's kind of the angle I take at it is I look at these things and then I try and cross reference with things in the news or the news archives and see if any of it lines up. So
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's good. So we have a metaphysician slash philosopher. We've got our investigative journalist slash newsy. You know, we're gonna get you a newsy cap, Toby.
and we have
So
Bigfoot.
yeah, and we have Bigfoot. No, also it's at Chase Howard 97. I added it to the bottom there so you can see it. Follow Chase. We'll call him Young Chasey. Um, uh, Shane. What are you bringing to the table? Uh-oh, he's having a side conversation.
No, I wasn't. I was just talking to the Grays. They came for early probing. I don't have time right now. I said.
Okay, so what are you bringing to the table, bro?
Well, I got finger guns. I'm a veteran, survivor of most things. Right. I've seen some stuff. I'll say that. Um, Also, I guess you were kind of right earlier when you said I'm not just a. What'd you say about me? I
I
like to
said
read.
I
I
said
don't
you're
speak a lot. Go ahead, say it.
no. What did I say? I said he's not just a.
You said something about you being quite handsome and he can read, something along those lines, right? I think that's what you were saying.
Oh, I said you're just not just a lovable idiot because you're not.
Oh, that's right. No, I spend quite a bit of time reading. Last couple of years, especially philosophy. I enjoy physics. I
Yeah, don't
also
let him fool you because
UFOs.
he's called out
Now,
people. He's called out people to me. Be like, dude, I read that book. That person doesn't know what they're talking about. He would never
yeah,
say it publicly, but he does know what
one
he's
of the
talking about.
things one of the things I like to do is I read. I immerse myself. I immerse myself in reading. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a rewind. So after my experience, one of the things that happened, I changed so much. I stopped. I can't. I don't watch TV. Don't do movies. And I was floundering for a bit. I couldn't figure out. But then I started reading, and I enjoy that. Like especially when we have conversations that involve the topics of UAP, to anything involving physics, any of that stuff. Oh, I can go there all day long and just spit all night, you know. So I guess I'm bringing life experience because I've lived about 17 lifetimes in my short time, and I don't say that as a brag. It's just a matter of, man, sometimes you could survive more than you can think, right? And I'll speak to that in any way because what I'm going to call crazy is I think all of it has to do is led here to this point. I experience all these different things. I look now and the synchronicity is just thick, right?
Hmm.
And I think I have. I also offer, with my past, the things that I've done good, done bad. I offer a pretty big plethora of just things I can speak to, and that's not saying how or why to do these different things. It's just saying this is what I did and this is what happened, and you can always overcome certain things. And I will say the most important thing to me is speaking as an experiencer that had struggles with mental health and addiction and things like that, because this is a big thing and there's not a lot you can do about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's something we can all relate to. Everybody I know has had struggles with mental health in some way or another. Obviously, some things are worse than others, and some struggles are harder than others. But I think everybody can relate to that at some point in their life, whether it be depression, anxiety, whatever. And to the addiction thing, if you've never dealt with addiction, I think we've all had a family member or a good friend that has. So, again, all of these topics are amazing because they all need to be talked about. Number one, it's therapeutic, and number two, I think it's like your story is like really important, like what you went through to show to other people that are going through similar things how to overcome that, and it's possible. And some of the
I'll
stuff
say
you
this
told me
too.
about your own experiences are, and like I said, we can do an episode just on that where you describe your experiences
Yeah.
in that
I'll say this
realm.
too.
But
If I just as an example, if I had the ability without, I mean, I found UFO Twitter, and here's a shout out to UFO Twitter. It did save my life. And there's so many people I owe there that I can't begin to explain, and this is how I pay back. I don't need anything out of this except for maybe I help someone else. This also helps me, so this is kind of about me, right? Um, the experience was one that I will say this now. I didn't have fun at all. It wasn't like, oh, this is exciting. It was kind of traumatic in its own right. And next week I go to Boston with Wounded Warrior. Friday I leave. Even now I'm stressing bad right now just because I'm like, do I talk about it or do I leave the experience part out? Why do I do it? Why am I stressing about that? But I am. It's silly, I know, but it's getting to me. It's like if I keep it, it's not like a full dump. So that's what the world we live in, and that's why I'm talking about it.
yeah,
And I think that's very important. And I think something else you should speak to, Shane, is you want to really make this new podcast more of a community involved thing. So maybe you should tell people a little bit about what you kind of have planned in that regard.
So what I'm thinking is this is going to be a journey, right? I mean, a lot of these guests are people who have been on my journey, helping me figure out where I'm going, what's going on, what's been happening. I take a little piece, and a lot of these pieces have come from the community, and so we're going to have rotating, people that come on and guest host with us as we have speakers. I've reached out to a couple people, so you know, expect that. We want to include people in the conversation. So we have several people you'll see rotating there. But one of the things we're trying to do as well is after our podcast, we would like to see if some of the guests would like to come, and we're going to have a space that you guys can interact and ask questions to. Say, spaces that I run, tight, good things, positive vibes. I'm curious, you guys out in the chat land, what do you guys think about that? I know what you can one way you can show us that is you can hit the like button in here and subscribe, that's for sure. And make sure you retweet that.
yeah,
Finger guns.
absolutely. uh, yeah, no. Shane's our hype man here, and
Thank you.
you know Shane does a ton of spaces on Twitter. We're gonna do a space tonight after this is done on Twitter. But also, the thing that Shane mentioned is like we've built up actually a pretty nice community of people in Twitter Spaces. So much so where you have like people in regular UFO community commenting on this wonderful community, whether it be positive or negative, on UFO Twitter. But it's mostly positive. But it's just people talking shit. You know how it
Hey,
goes.
hey, Chase, do me a solid and go at Gary and Lou and have them come watch us.
Young Chasey. So bottom line is, it's all going to be about community, and we're going to try and do, like Shane said, we're going to do spaces afterwards. If we can get the guest on the spaces, or other guests, or whatever the case may be, we're going to try and do that. So, bottom line is, again, it's going to be a combination of things. It's not just going to be about UFOs, UAP. It'll also be about related topics. But yeah, it's about bringing people together and not fighting, not causing drama. Anybody that knows me knows I hate drama on Twitter. I never participate in it. I think it's stupid. Same thing with Shane, and I know Toby feels the same way too. So we're all about bringing people together. Obviously, this is a real thing that's happening, and yeah, we're gonna just highlight the positive aspects, not from the phenomena, but just like the community, and then from the phenomena, we'll just report it as it goes. Positive, negative, indifferent, benevolent, malevolent, whatever it is. So, but yeah, I think that. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, you're good.
Could you go ahead and throw up our Gmail on here? Because I would like anybody in the community that wants to talk or feels like they have a story to tell to feel free to email us at any time.
I'll add it in the chat here. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Let me pull it up.
1 second, guys, real quick. Hey, Rob, I'll actually text you, bro. Thank you for that. I will text you, Rob.
Yeah, shout out to Rob Heatherly. Thank you.
My brother. Veteran brother.
Let's see here. Let me find this here. But I think that, like I said, it's going to be really interesting because, I'm excited because I get to talk to a bunch of people from the UFO community that I have not spoken to yet. And part of that for me was I jumped into the game a little bit on UFO Twitter very early on, like when it was brand new. And then like a year later, I kind of took a step back just because of all the drama. It just seemed like a lot of fighting and stuff. And I stopped having a lot of like UFO guests, except for a couple people I really trusted and respected. But I'm excited to jump back in. And I have, like I said, we're working on this documentary. It's important for me to not just have my own philosophies and experiences and draw from that, but also listen to what other people are saying. What's the culture like? What's going on? Because I think it all plays together into the whole thing. So here, let me put our email in here. There we go. Email's in the YouTube live stream feed if anybody's interested. Also, again, the LinkTree link to our Roswell UFO Symposium is down below. It has all the links to the emails, our YouTube channel. Again, there's no content yet, but there will be soon. So in terms of experiences, Shane, Shane's going to be in the documentary that we're working on. Some of his footage is going to be in that documentary as well as his interview. I'm trying to get Toby in. I don't know if Toby wants to be in the documentary, but he can be the last person in if he wants to be.
I'm going to have to get a good enough camera.
Well, it doesn't matter. We'll figure that out. Don't worry. I'll have Shane fly there real quick and film you. But
he probably will.
He probably would, actually.
Hey,
we're sending Bigfoot over.
Let me ask a question. Am I not allowed to type in the YouTube chats or what? How's this work? I can't talk back to these people?
Why? Why can't you talk back?
I just want to tell Rob. He's my brother and I love him. That's all I was going to say. I guess I could have just said it, huh? Forgot I'm here. My bad.
I'm typing it in right now just in case.
It's like when I hang up on you because you say something, we're on a phone call, and I like it so much I go to hit a clap emoji and I just click the phone off.
Yeah, dude, Shane's hung up on me like 3 times, like we're talking in Twitter Spaces or something. So
I just get let me call you right back.
Shout out to Ocean Emily in the house. I love Ocean Emily. She's one of my favorite people. So positive. Um,
The pig.
always
I love the
interested. Yeah,
pig.
she's got a pet pig that we hear in the background that's sounds cute. I'm sure it's cute. I haven't seen it, but I believe it.
What if she's CIA and the pig's not real?
The pig's in the CIA. Everybody's worried about the people. It's the pig. Um,
It's an agent. The pig's an agent.
Is this a Charlotte's Web sequel?
That'll do, pig. Yeah, so in terms of so Shane, we're doing the documentary thing, and hopefully, Toby will help us get that to more people. He knows a lot of people in that realm of things. So again, we're kind of in the editing process, except for a couple last people's footages here. And Maurice will be working on that. He's out of town right now, but when he gets back, yeah, so in terms of my own experiences, I've mentioned this before, but I had an orb experience with my father in his backyard almost 2 years to the day here coming up in the next couple weeks. And it was an orange orb. My dad and I looked up. It was his birthday. We're staring up at the sky behind it. We're not far from O'Hare. It was in the direction of O'Hare, but it wasn't like near O'Hare. And this thing just like shot off like fat. There's no way this thing was a plane. It was just hanging there, slowly moving, and then all of a sudden, by the time I got my phone up to pull up my star chart, it was gone. So that's my experience in day-to-day consciousness. Most of my other experiences are based in altered states of consciousness, so we'll probably talk about that at different times. I've definitely brought it up many times on our episodes on here on Mind Escape. So but
Are we talking like machine elves or machine
no,
whatever we refer to?
no. I mean, I've had psychedelic entities, but more, one experience with psilocybin and MDMA combination. Another one was very high dose psilocybin. I think it was like 8 or 9 dried grams, which is a lot. And couple lucid dream experiences, couple meditation experiences, but yeah, a lot of altered state, and then like a lot of like synchronistic kind of stuff happening too. So but yeah, so I used to be very skeptical of like the day-to-day consciousness stuff, like the sightings, the people experiencing stuff. Not that I never thought it was a physical thing, but it was just I had never experienced it. So I didn't know, but it's like, when my dad and I saw that orb, we both just kept saying like how weird it was to one another. And like, there was that feeling for like a second when you see it where, like when you're driving in a car and you have like
Shannon
a close
Scott's
call.
Sorry, I just want to say hi, Shannon Scott.
You're good. When you're driving in a car and like you get a close call, or you have like not like a near death in the sense that you're dying, but just like you feel like you're in a dangerous situation and your adrenaline starts kicking, your heart starts pumping, that kind of a thing. It was almost like that kind of a feeling, just from looking at this thing. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Were you scared at all?
No, but that's what was so weird about it. It was like that fight or flight reaction from looking at it without fighting or flighting, if that makes sense, So, I mean, because of my OCD and my mental health stuff, I have a different fight or flight response. Like I'm very not scared of a lot of things that people are scared of, and the stuff that does worry me or my anxiety is like stupid petty shit. So, it's kind of reversed for me, if that makes sense. So like things like that.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of reversed, after my experience, well, one of the things that's common with PTSD is hypervigilance, and it used to just, my brain was always just constantly tired from that stuff. After my experience, it was slightly different, right? It changed me quite a bit. I ended up, the hypervigilance, I went from being like, that fight or flight you're talking about is part of hypervigilance. So it's a constant thing. I went from that constant flight that was always there, that anxiety, to the opposite, just kind of probably being more curious than I should be, knowing that I'm a veteran and knowing that I don't know what this stuff is. You know what I mean? Like,
it's
if
probably
it was
similar to
close,
OCD in
I
the sense
probably
that
would have
like,
touched it.
do you have trigger? Like, is there things that trigger it?
Trigger what?
Like your episodes or whatever.
Oh, I will say that for me,
I mean, you don't have to say what it is, but are there
no,
things
it's
that
not
like,
even necessarily that. Look, I'll put it to you straight. I'm not gonna lie. The last 3 years have been a bitch. No other reason than I left coincided. I left the care. Last care was right before the pandemic, man, and I was a burn pit veteran, so I didn't. I was scared shitless of catching it, so I sat at home, and here I still sit. I've literally been to Vernal, Utah. That's the only place I've been outside of the mountains. With family's the only people I've interacted with in like 3 years aside of Twitter.
yeah, you
So
guys out west are lucky in that regard. Like, I mean, I've got up North Michigan, which is beautiful, but I for some reason I feel like I'll love the desert, and I've never been. I've been to Vegas a couple times, but you're not going out in the desert in Vegas,
The desert's different than Shane thinks. He
well,
thought we didn't
I
have
live.
water in New Mexico.
Yeah, I thought they were on some kind of a drought, man.
What were your words? Sahara-like?
I pictured Sahara-like dunes. I ain't gonna lie. And I
Yeah,
used to live in
fair enough.
Albuquerque.
Is Roswell pretty desolate? As like you said, because we were talking about like you were getting like a new webcam. You said it was like nothing was really that close. Is that you're not really close to much?
Well, not necessarily. I just meant as far as store options. I mean, the
Yeah.
population here is right around 50,000.
Okay.
So
Like
most people
how
here
far is the
go-
night like the biggest closest like city
you're
or
3
town?
hours away from anything of significant size.
Okay.
I mean, 3 hours away, you have Albuquerque, you have Lubbock, Texas, you have
Gotcha.
Las Cruces.
Interesting.
So we're a ways from any of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I once I get out west, I'll love it there because I don't know, I just like that vibe, and I love seeing like the stars without any sort of light pollution. Here in
Yeah.
Chicago, I mean, you look at this towards the city, there's this like red glow that like emanates like into the night sky, like so you can't see any. I mean, I can see maybe the main constellations, the Big Dipper, Orion's Belt, that kind of stuff, but other than
Yeah, I
that,
posted an article. I want to say it was about 3 weeks ago. Speaking to that, I can drive 20 minutes from my house, 30 minutes, and I can see the Milky Way.
that's awesome.
Something you're not going to see where you're at.
Dude, I could never see that here. But when we go camping in northern Michigan, you can literally see all the stars. I can see satellites. I can see everything with my naked eye.
Yeah, and see that's where some of my sightings were because when you can see the whole sky, there's so much going on. Like you said, there's satellites, there's planes, there's meteors, there's
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, to the point about you were saying like hypervigilant, I know people are commenting on it in the thing. For me, with like OCD, it's you get in these negative mind loops that seem to not have any end. You have to kind of end them yourself. But in those mind loops, like you get triggered by things. So it depends on like what kind of OCD you have, what your fears are, or whatever the thing is. But yeah, you get in these you get triggered, and then you get into this like fight or flight mode. I would assume, and I don't know enough about the brain scans on people with OCD, but I would assume that a lot of the activity has to do with the amygdala, which is your fight or flight center in your brain. Like I don't put a ton of stock into like that kind of aspect of science because like this part of the brain controls this and that part of the brain, because like there has been studies, like there's a Duke fMRI study where they scanned people, they had people do a bunch of functions, and they were in the fMRI, and they recorded it, and then they had people come back like a couple weeks later, perform those same functions in the fMRI, and they used a completely different part of their brain to perform that same function. So again, I mean, I think that
Are
there's
you medicated for it?
me.
I'm just curious. You don't have to answer if you don't want.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Oh no. I have in the past and stuff like that.
That's one of the things I'm struggling with. Have you ever struggled with? Let me ask you this. Like right now, I'm under medicated for my ADHD. That's one of the reasons I completely lost when you asked me a question. I started talking.
Yeah, dude, you're you're the most hyper person I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, I'm kind of under medicated currently, and that's one of the things. They're waiting until I get to Wounded Warrior next Friday, because what's the point when I'm going to be down there? So,
and by medicated, I just wanted to point out,
go on little tangents.
THC and CBD is the medication.
Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm that.
Which by the way, But by the way, like that is it's for me that's a godsend. So um
No, it helps level me out.
yeah.
But and for a long time, now this is another kicker I have to deal with, and some people do, a lot of people don't. But as someone who suffered from addiction, I don't like putting things in my body necessarily, right?
Oh,
I,
absolutely. Yeah.
but so imagine being so stubborn you don't want like ADHD medicine is pretty damn close to amphetamines, right? To methamphetamines. It's an amphetamine. So I keep fighting the doctors on it, but then I'm all over the place. So then
Yeah.
they're trying this and that's I hate the medicine game. That's one of the things I super hate. Uh,
Well, they gave it
I
to
know
all of
that.
us when we were younger. That's for I'm like
Oh,
me
I
and all
know.
my friends. We were like, I was like, what was it like? They prescribed like Ritalin to like everybody. Like it was just like everybody has this thing. I don't know. So it's like here we are, 20 years
My
later.
doctor,
You
she
know.
told me. She said you were never diagnosed with ADHD when you were a kid. I was like, no. She never medicated. I was like, no. She's like, you're all over the place. I don't know how you
Were
did
you hyper like
anything.
that when you were a kid, like before you went into the military?
Oh, yeah, I was just all over.
Mm,
But, I mean,
yeah.
I didn't know better. I just thought I was pretty
So
damn cool.
but the way that this relates to the phenomena is interesting. Like I'm hyper aware of things to the point where like I annoy my wife about it. Like I notice every detail of like every little thing, and that's because of my OCD. And it might be different for everybody that has these kinds of things, but I've learned to try and use it to my advantage. Right. So the hyper awareness, while it sounds bad and it is in some cases, I think that hyper awareness can be very beneficial for different things like research, art, music. A lot of the stuff that I do, I can use it to my advantage. So just throwing it out there. It doesn't have to be so grim in some cases. But yeah, it takes a lot of introspection. CBT therapy is great. Understanding your own mind and how the mind works. Read books on philosophy of the mind, that kind of a thing. But yeah, but to the how this relates to phenomenon, being like hyper aware of things, maybe you're more likely to stare up at the night sky and be aware of something, or be in an altered state and be aware of something there, or something along those lines. I don't know if you feel the same way, Shane, but I feel like that could be the case.
No, I do feel the same way. And I actually want to mention that while I think about it, since I'm ADD rolling right now, I was going to say, I know that Ukraine, their college, or one of their colleges, has been doing some science behind the UAP topic. I don't know if you guys have seen that paper that they put out where they have two different names for like objects that are in the atmosphere. It's traveling like 30,000 miles an hour. Um, One of the things that I was going to point out was that stuff there is what I see here, like when they described it. Now I say that because my son, wife, my families, they've all seen. Literally, looks like they call them dancing stars. Uh, we've been camping. We'll be out in the, I see, Rainier, and these. What was the name of them they used? They had a specific name for each one. I can't think of it right now, but I remember one time telling my mother-in-law and them, I'm like, "Hey, look at these satellites." And then we looked up; they were heading straight for each other. And as they got to each other, they each hard left 90 degrees, opposite directions. And I was just kind of like, "Wait, what was that?" Um, that's one of the reasons I ended up just kind of like everywhere I went, I was seeing them, and I didn't know, and I assumed for a long time that it was either they're everywhere and no one's paying attention, and my hypervigilance is why I see them, or perhaps you know they're just for some reason my trauma has something to do with the fact that I'm seeing them. And this is just my opinion, obviously. It feels like there's a good article. Chase, get on Twitter and tweet this. Good article. I can't think of who it was. It's called Lighthouses in the Dark. And it kind of talks to this, right? Why some people have these experiences that are continuous. Mine's been continuous for a couple years, and it just feels like perhaps maybe I'm just a pulsing beacon saying, "Hey, look at me." One of the things we should also take away now, this could be an all over thing. I'm not saying it's one thing or the other because, like I said, Kiel Valet, but most civilizations that are far advanced, war was, they're probably so many years past war that this is intriguing to them, both watching us destroy each other, nukes, weapons of war, and the after effects, soldiers, veterans, people like that, which could explain a lot of experiences, experiencers. Now, this is all just in my head because it doesn't make any sense to me a lot of times other than that, because what's the difference, right? And perhaps whatever this thing is, this phenomena, to get into people, like I know they're talking about the hitchhiker effect, like the way they hitch. Perhaps it has to get into people differently because even though we're biologically the same, chemically and the makeups, maybe like a trauma could change your brain slightly, or medication changes it. So perhaps they have to find different ways into our body.
Yeah,
I don't know if that made any sense.
yeah, and
Actually, it did. Um,
I
sorry
stand by.
to
No, no, no.
sorry to jump in, Mike. But speaking, you keep bringing up Valet. An interesting thing, Gary Nolan. We all know he's been working with medical records of experiencers and doing research in that. Did you guys see the case he posted the picture from, where the family looked up and saw this like a star
Yeah,
shaped?
they each saw something different, and then the
Yes.
picture came out different, right?
Yeah, the picture didn't even show what the family saw. So I
Yeah, they
mean,
saw something completely different than the photo, and I've seen that too. Matter of fact, let me speak to that right now. I purchased. I have a gimbal. It's a DJI gimbal, and I use my whatever iPhone I had at the time. One of the pains is you got to look at the screen that can kind of night blind you. Well, whatever this object is that I have so many videos of that would dive bomb me and just go all over the place directions. I've seen it upper atmosphere, lower. Um, I started noticing, and I've posted videos before. It's got active camouflage. I can tell you that with no doubt in my mind. I know that before I've been in a space and people argued that there's no way they could change what your eyes see or what perhaps a camera sees. Are you kidding me? Uh, it's not that difficult. I mean, we're almost probably there as the United States government. So something that's far advanced could easily use some kind of a far advanced microwave weapon, right? And change whatever. But I personally watched as my phone was on the gimbal and it sat on the tripod. So I'm watching it with my eyes and then I see it on the screen and I could see it moving across the sky and it's just blazing. And as I'm watching it, it's still there. And I look down and it's gone on the camera and I can't figure out why it's still there. It's gone on the camera and I keep doing back and forth. Well, I've happened a couple times. Well, I went back. When it disappears, if you enhance it, it's still there. It's just it looks exactly like what they talk about in the Skinwalker book with that like that predator camouflage. It's there. You can see something being blocking it. It looks like a dark shadow pulsing now, but it's still there.
was
That
it
new
the
Predator
big?
movie called Prey, by the way, is phenomenal. People should check it out. It's really good.
It's really good. It's really good. Speaking of the Bigfoot
Can you get the predator on our
documentary on who you
podcast?
were talking about earlier, wasn't there some kind of a picture of like a predator type entity in that documentary, or am I thinking of one of the missing
Wait,
411
oh,
documentaries?
missing 411. Here you go. I'll see. This is one of the things when I said I like to read. After my experience, and I realized, oh, this might be UAP. I would spend so much time reading about the subject and this listen. So I know there's a case on missing 411 that there was a woman who was out hunting and she was up in her tree stand. And as she's sitting there, she sees something moving in front of her and she can't make it out, but it's exactly what you just described. So she goes to take a photo of this, whatever it is, right? She pulls her little flip phone out, and it's a flip phone, so you're not going to mess the camera up. She goes to take a photo. And whenever she takes the photo, all you see is almost some weird reflection, but it's her. It's like so again, this would make sense. So when she went to take a photo of whatever this is, and if it's a active camouflage, we're even close enough to where we have the active camouflage that kind of takes photos of stuff around you. So as she's taking a photo of it, that's what immediately hit my head. Oh, well, this is a technological weapon this thing is using. Um, so there's that case, and in the Skinwalker book, there's also an officer, Skinwalker, not Skinwalker's the Pentagon, the first book, but an officer was driving down the road when what they would call a Skinwalker does something similar. Or no, I'm thinking about the one in the trees, like an 8 foot one in the trees, and they talk about it on the show as well. But there was one more case that I also read too that was similar. And I actually personally know someone that's seen that active camouflage up close.
I saw today actually. I think the guy that does the missing 411's doing a UFO one.
Yeah.
And if I
Um,
remember correctly, when the woman took the picture from her cell phone of this creature while she was out hunting, the actual picture from the phone was a resolution that was impossible for the phone to take. So that just adds another level of weird on top of
And
what we're already seeing.
speaking of this, Rob just made a point. It's on slide 9, actually. He's right, too. It's right there. It says they could change your consciousness. And I'm going to tell you that personally, I've I'm telling you, I've seen some stuff, man. And one of the times I was on a Twitter space, okay, this happened, and 2 nights in a row it would appear hovering, whatever this orb was, and I've posted them on my Twitter. It would just appear hovering and just sit there. And then as I go to get my camera, it disappeared. Well, this night I was actually out, and I think it was one of our spaces, Mike. We were sitting there, and all of a sudden, all these voices that are on the Twitter space start going high pitched, and I thought people were going on the whatever that voice synthesizer thing, and I was getting kind of upset. But then my phone starts going a little nutty. I'm like, what the hell? So for some reason I look up and I'm seeing it, and I'm like, oh. So I go to get my camera because it's like maybe 500 feet, and I'm trying to get my camera to work, but my camera, all it says is photo, no video, nothing like that, and it keeps going wiry, like something's messing with my phone. I'm like, what the hell's going on? All I could take was one live photo of this object, right? And twice now that's happened to me when it was close to me. Both times that I got video of it at this closest point, my phone jack was messed up and I almost didn't get stuff with it. So it's easily, it's something. I have no clue what it is. And the fact that perception is just an electrical impulse, come on, that's an easy thing to change.
so
I just got to say a quick shout out to Tara in the chat. Shane.
yeah, shout out to Tara. She said she's put up with you for
Finger
too
guns.
long. Um,
Yeah, my wife.
but they
Yeah,
showed what really
shout
happened
out
with
to
your.
my poor wife.
They showed what really happened with your sightings, and somebody had a drone with a cutout of Bigfoot over it, and they were just flying it around. No, but for real, honestly, go check out Shane's feed because these videos, I don't know what he's catching on there. They're definitely not stars. They're not. They can't be like a Chinese lantern. They can't be. I'm trying to think what else. Ball lightning doesn't happen that often. I don't know
You
what
know,
that is, so I don't know.
I'll tell you this much. I hated my experience. You want to know why? I was coming from a situation where all I wanted to be was normal. I addiction, homelessness, all these different things. And that immediately, imagine having ADHD and now you're having experiences. Now that's all you see, read, talk about to everyone around you, and they're not believing in the stuff. So now you're just when you're at your best, everyone around you thinks you're losing your shit, man. I hated my experience. Imagine there were times I imagine people thought I was crazy as shit because I'd be out in the yard cussing them. You mother, just cussing, flipping them off, just because stupid shit, right? Just they appear, I couldn't get a video or stupid stuff. And I started blaming them for everything that's going on in my life. And I say them, I don't know what it is. But is that not ridiculous? That's how frequent my stuff is. Again, it could be because of Hanford, but I was screaming at the top of my lungs. I told my senator, no one gave a crap, man. And now they're just like, oh, there's stuff on Hanford over Hanford. I would think the nuclear site would be important.
Yeah, young Chasey's in there talking shit right now. He said Shane was never normal. Young Chasey. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know what those things are in your videos. I'm sure Mick West would chalk it up to something, right? Some sort of what is that, radar or not radar. What was the thing he was mentioning? The recent thing. It was like the reflection of.
Yeah, but
Venus off
uh,
swamp gas.
you know what? Mick is a good guy. He's doing this because that's his niche. I invited him. I said, dude, why don't you go to
No, I
Skinwalker,
wasn't.
Marty
I
Woods?
wasn't saying that. I was because of that. I was just
Oh, I
saying
know
like,
that. I'm just saying he
yeah.
doesn't. I know he's scared poopless that he's going to end up seeing something. Is what it is.
Uh-huh.
That's what it is. It's, he knows that there are places. Even Ted Rose says there are hot spots. There are places where this stuff relatively often happens, right?
Yeah.
So why not get some of these people that keep saying it doesn't exist to go? Well, they get invited.
Oh, I told you, bro. I'm down. I'll mention this again. If anybody wants to take me up on it, I will take psilocybin and walk through Skinwalker. I mean, that's just
You know, it would be cool.
How chivalrous of you.
now. And I'm not
I,
staying there because maybe there's something to staying there where there's something environmental or something happening. Like so if it's a one-time thing, they Geiger count me after or whatever. I get out of there. Everything's I'm good. Okay.
um,
And
I
I'm not
wonder.
saying I don't believe in the hitchhiker thing, but I do believe intention. Intention
Oh,
is
I
important.
believe in it.
Well, that's
I
another
believe
thing that's messed
intention's
with me.
important with all of this stuff. If you've got
Let me
good
ask you this
intentions or
question.
you're looking for true knowledge, and it's like like the old myths or like what's that like the Indiana Jones stuff. Like if you're the asshole trying to collect the thing for the gold or whatever, but if you're there for the knowledge, it might be a different story. That's my opinion.
Don't
I know it's controversial, but
Well, let me ask you this.
don't bring
So
up Indiana Jones because
the
we
stuff
have
that
this
I've
guy at the newspaper. Sorry, Shane. Let me just say
you're
this real
okay.
quick. This guy keeps sending us these emails. I mean, we get one a week, and they're 40-page manifestos. And I'm not trying to knock the guy. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what his situation is, but he brings up Indiana Jones and him constantly. And I'm not gonna say what he says about him, but maybe on one of the future episodes I'll show
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
guys one of these emails because they're just. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that
No,
in
it's fine. That'll be part of the
See,
$80 Patreon tier.
there.
okay. What most of you
So
guys don't
basically, nobody's
realize,
ever hearing it. Go ahead, Shane.
what most of the guys out there in the audience don't realize is this is kind of brought together because this isn't just a normal podcast. This is kind of a quest for answers for me. These people we get to interview, it's more about how I found my way, the little pieces I took, things like that. And this is an example. This thing is so wide ranging. The experience is so varying. You have Chris Bledsoe, who records similar to me. You also have Jim Simivan, who speaks of orbs and things like that, but has a totally different experience, right? And then you have me as well. So I read things like, okay, oh, he's saying it's this. He's saying it's this, and it's the same. So I agree. I think attention maybe has a lot to do with it because I've never been scared. It's never been. I've been more. There were a couple of times that I was more. I needed to get a psyche valve. I was never scared. I actually. That's how skeptical I was. I actually like. I'm losing my shit. I need to go back in twice, and it was legit stuff, man. It's like I kept thinking, oh, I'm schizophrenic, but that doesn't happen at my age. And then the doctor's like, no, you're not. So then I start recording, and it's like none of this makes any sense. And then I start seeing the cigar shaped craft.
Yeah,
So
most mental health stuff for men actually starts in their early to mid 20s, and your frontal cortex becomes fully formed at like 25. Actually, that's kind of roughly the same timeline where I developed my OCD. So yeah, yours obviously is mostly probably connected to your experiences in the Air Force and military and everything like that. So I mean, I can't
Shane,
speak to you earlier in your life. You obviously, I know you've mentioned other things that probably contributed to it too, but I mean, only you know those answers, right? That's your journey. So
in the words of the water boy, something's wrong with your medulla oblongata, Shane.
yeah, I haven't seen that movie in a long time actually. It's been a really long time.
Yeah.
Some movies though, I go back now and I watch, and I'm like, this. How are people going
Tommy
back?
Boy. Tommy
Tommy
Boy is
Boy's
still a
good though.
classic.
Still, it holds up.
Yes,
There's some
yes.
movies though. What was it? Oh, Saving Silverman. I used to think that was funny. Like when I was younger, I tried to watch it recently. I'm like, this is such a piece of shit of a movie. I can't
You know
watch
what?
this.
You know what?
I can't watch this.
I went back and I tried to rewatch Fire in the Sky.
No.
It's still creepy as hell.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Dude, that's the first one. I think. How old was I? think I was like 13 or 14, maybe even younger. I
That and
don't.
communion.
When I saw that for the first time, that thing just blew my mind. The fact that, and when you're younger and there's no internet yet, and it says based on a true story, what are you going to check that against? That's for sure real and happening, you know. So, I don't know what Shane. What are you doing, bro?
Sorry, I'm just changing hats.
Mute up.
A wardrobe change.
You know, I need to change things up a little bit. Different one with Bigfoot.
Communion was a scary one too.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody mentioned the
you what.
hitchhiker too. You know, for the hitchhiker thing, like I said, it's not like I'm disregarding it. I believe there's probably something to it. The way I look at this stuff is like if you respect stuff, so like you could say whatever, like it doesn't matter if you respect it or whatever, it's coming for you, blah 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 blah. But I feel like with all this stuff, the weird experiences I've had and these anomalous experiences with either entities or whatever, it's always been positive for me. So like I know that's not the same case for everybody, but this has all been part of my like knowledge quest, and like there's an esoteric side of it that I've embraced. So again, I respect like we do experiencer spaces and people talk about the negative side of it, and I completely understand that. But for me, I'm open to experiences and stuff like that because like I said, if you like, it's like a psychedelic experience. If you go in with proper reverence and intention and everything like that, you're trying to do something. I don't see how that would be different. Maybe like unless that's spots specifically for negative negative entities or something like that. There's just something about that specific spot, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I kind of feel like you're onto something there because I mean I'll tell my story eventually,
Yeah.
but the spot where my event happened, I always got like a creepy foreboding kind of feeling.
yeah,
So maybe it is the spots are associated with different types of energy. I mean, I don't know.
a couple of my experiences have been creepy, but like I said, there's, you know, almost like Jungian like shadow work kind of stuff where it's like I've embraced not like I don't know, I consider myself a really nice person, but I highlight to myself the negative aspects and work on them and stuff like that. But when you're talking about like an external entity or something like that, like I said, it's like psychedelics in the sense that like if you have the proper reverence going in, and I've tried to make contact with things and experiment with things in those realms. And if you have the proper reverence, I think it's okay. But you know, like you hear people getting like flipped off, or they have a terrible experience and this entity's messing with them, or a trickster or whatever. It's because they weren't ready for that, if that makes sense, in my opinion. But
yeah, I've only
you know,
tried to remote view, or I don't know what it's called, precog, or where you try to talk to somebody. I've only done that once. I tried that last night in meditation. I tried to talk to Tyler Henry because I sent him a DM about being on the podcast, and I was like, check your DMs.
yeah.
I don't know if it worked, man.
No, you woke up my wife because we heard it in our bedroom.
Did you?
I'm just
It's
kidding.
good, huh? I'm good. I'm good.
You got some skill, man.
I wish I was able to do that. Oh, Astral's somebody I want to have on the show though too. The podcast.
Yeah.
He's been on Vice, and
I forgot I got to
precog,
get him on
remote
the show
viewing
too.
stuff.
Yeah, he reached out to me a while ago. I was gonna have him on, and then life happens. We gotta still get him on here. We'll have him on the new one. I like him. He's a good dude.
By the way, guys, if you get a chance, check in the chat because Rob's dropping some knowledge bombs up in there.
Oh yeah. Oh, let's see what he says here.
Yeah, he's talking about experience.
Oh yeah, near death. So Rob, it's interesting because actually the documentary we're working on now came because of everything getting shut down a couple years ago. Because our documentary was actually, my cousin and I were going to make a documentary on near death experiences. My mom had a traditional near death experience where she was dead for a couple of minutes giving birth to my sister. I've read all the books, Life After Life, you know, Eben Alexander's story. This Rob Gentile guy that we've had on the podcast is super. Go back and listen to that episode. If you like near-death experiences, this guest that we had on, Rob Gentile, he had 2 traditional near-death experiences while he was waiting for a heart transplant. And he was given this girl's heart. She actually, a sad story, she committed suicide. he was given her heart. It saved his life, and he started having all these weird cravings for things like Skittles and things he never had in his life. And then he found out later on that like that was some of her favorite stuff. So, thinking about that, I speculate like, is there some sort of consciousness housed in different organs? Not just obviously our brains, but throughout our whole body, some sort of like cellular consciousness, or some people would just say it's like cell memory or something like that. But I think there's a little bit more to it than that. But yeah, I don't know. Interesting stuff. I'm open to new data and stuff. This is all just my opinions on these things, and I know I differ.
Maybe we can do a live show from out here near Hanford with you two here. Get you guys hitchhikered.
I'll go, man. Give me 1 minute. I'll be right back. I have the world's fattest Siamese cat, and she's currently going crazy. I have to feed her.
just mute your mic real quick before you walk.
I will.
Okay.
I can do finger guns if I need to take up some time, man.
No, but yeah, I mean, I'm down to go places. Like I said, we were gonna do a different documentary where we went around and actually met with everybody, but this documentary is kind of like a passion project. Like we've been interested in this topic for a long time. Chris Wolford, who's a good friend, said he wanted to get his story out there, so kind of all came together with stuff that I've been speculating and hypothesizing on for a while. So I'm excited about that, and I think that
Kyle
there'll
has
be
a question.
Oh, okay. What
I
what
can go
is
first,
disclosure? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so here's what I'll spin this way. Disclosure isn't up to us. It's not up to our government. Disclosure is up to whatever this is. So, yes, we may know. We've already had. It's real. We've had that kind of disclosure. Now it's a matter of whether our government decides if it's a benefit to let us know, if it's more of a benefit to keep it in the dark because it helps hide programs, keep whatever going, things like that. I'm under the impression that for something that is so far advanced it can stay hidden for as long as it wants and can appear at will. I'm under the impression that it's guiding disclosure. It's showing yes, I know there's more sightings, but I think this is whatever it is. It's leading disclosure. It's always been. Again, the crashes, I think those are all show. Maybe manipulation, guidance. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I don't. I pay attention to all the government stuff, the congressional hearings. I pay attention to all that. That's not my role. That's not going to be my role on this podcast, on the new one. It's just not my role. I'll have those people on to discuss it. I'm appreciative of everybody doing, pushing this whole thing forward and the attention that it's brought the last few years and everything like that. But I'm just more of like a philosopher, thinker, kind of a guy, like a metaphysician on this topic. That's just my role. I know what I know and I know what I don't know. I haven't studied all the documents and papers. I know there's people doing that stuff, like even Chris Wolford. This guy's like an index of all the, top, sightings and cases over the years. He knows all the stuff, and I know you know a lot about that stuff too, Shane. That's just not me, so in terms of disclosure for me, it's already happened for me. Like there's something beyond our spectrum of senses. So whether that be aliens or something metaphysical that we don't even know about, I already know that exists because I've experienced it myself. That's gnosis. Gnosis comes from Plato, and it's the idea of knowing something through personal experience or spiritual knowledge. So yeah, I don't need disclosure in that sense, but I understand it's important for the world and people out there. So that's why I said, like, I pay attention. I'll give people the voice. I'll help out where I can to amplify things. But for me, I'm like I said, the philosopher, metaphysician. That's what I'm doing here. So
Rob also made another good point. He's kind of got it on. I kind of agree. There's two factions, one for and one against disclosure. And that's what we're dealing with right now, the reclassification and things like that.
Yeah.
Disappointing. So make sure if you guys are in here, senators, congressmen, call, let them know this is not on par.
So the one thing though I will mention about that too is like I mentioned this in the space the other day too, which is this has got to be a delicate topic too, because if this has the implications of having these advanced crafts or technology or whatever, like I said, think about the Manhattan Project and how much the atomic bomb and nuclear bombs changed the world and that technology. Now think about something that is even more uh, even more of a game changer than that. That could change not just energy, it could change war again, it could change so many different things. So while I think that people should be told about what's going on, I also understand there's a delicate side of this thing where you don't want Russia, China, people that have nefarious,
You want to beat them to that punch. And here's
yeah,
something that could be very well one faction could be trying to give us a soft disclosure, bring it in front of Congress just so they push it all together so we can beat China and Russia to figuring out the tech and whatever it is. Because compartmentalized, we're not getting anywhere. But when you're a communist country, you don't do that. So that's one of the things we're running into is a damned if you do, you damned if you don't. And I also understand patriotism. You got to do what you have to do to make sure your country survives because not everybody's a good actor.
and we got to be, like we got to look to the past too. Like what we did to Oppenheimer was not cool. Like go back and read American Prometheus or look into the what they like Lewis Strauss did to Oppenheimer after he basically was one of our heroes. So it's like stuff like that. Like we can't repeat that either. Like if there's people that are helping push this along and then it comes out, they can't be then hauled in front of people and whatever. So something to think about. We can't keep repeating the same mistake of punishing our heroes after they have major breakthroughs in different topics and categories. So um, Shane's really got a cup full of ice over there. I can really hear it rattling around. But yeah, I don't know. Toby, how's your cat?
Fat.
Is it going to make it?
No, nobody warned me. They told me Siamese, they're so intelligent, they're so vocal, they're so. See, there's my wife yelling at her. She's over there knocking on the bedroom door.
I bet you, Toby, guarantee you right now, is possessed. Probably a gray.
Yeah. No, I
My
think
cat's possessed.
I have we have a doll face Himalayan. She looks like a little kind of looks like Gizmo a little bit. And she looks like she's big, but then if you saw our cat wet, it's like cuz she's so fluffy that she turns into like nothing when that hair gets all wet. So
Sorry, my wife's chasing her, so.
yeah,
Transparency. Actually, they got a good point in chat right now. Disclosure and transparency. Robin made a point about um, disclosure and transparency being the same thing. Instead of UAPs, it said they'd be appreciative of just transparency, like
yeah.
how they're working it.
So to
What
like
do you think? They're the same?
to Rob's point, if they just said, "Hey, this thing's real and it's here," and just said that, I'm sure there's people that would be like, "I need more. I need more for proof or whatever." Blah 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 blah. But if they did that, then you wouldn't have to go down the road of like, here's the technology, here's how it works, that kind of a thing, and then so it becomes, like you said, basically like a new Cold War or something along those lines. So
Well, yeah, and I mean, you figure if these things are traveling, say, from another galaxy here, if one single government has the power to create, say, unlimited free energy, what are the odds that's going to come out? I
yeah,
mean, the oil companies, the electric companies would go out of business. So, it
yeah.
just speaking to your point earlier, it's a really tricky subject and a really tricky line to walk. That's why
We'd
I
have to
think the
create
work
something
done
too,
by.
like so like when Oppenheimer when they came up with the idea of the atomic bomb, they knew that there would have to be some sort of commission, like the Atomic Energy Commission, that would regulate everything because you can't just have this knowledge then out there so any madman that has enough money and resources can create this thing and then use it. So maybe if they do disclose in a certain way that they'd have to create some sort of commission to like oversee how this technology is used and what it's being used for, that kind of a thing. So just
Yeah,
something to think
and
about.
I mean, that's
So
assuming any government actually knows what it is. I know
Right.
when we interviewed Lou Elizondo, I asked him the question. I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, You know, what does the public know about this, and what does the government know as far as what they understand? And he said the public's like a point. I mean, I'd have to find the quote, but it was like point one versus the government knowing point two. So maybe they just have no clue what's actually going on.
Well, I've said that for a long
And
time too. Just because you have more data, like we're all human beings, right? There's not some superhuman being that works in the government, like a person with a supercomputer brain that's going to understand these things above and beyond what a normal person like. So you have to speculate. Like you could do like thought experiments. So like if we do have this technology, or let's just say we have a craft, you could then start to hypothesize and speculate how things might play out around that, if that is the case based on what we know about things that are already in place, right? So you could do that. But again, a lot of it's speculative until there's a for sure yes, a for sure no, maybe, whatever. So
yeah, and it's like he alluded to as well. You know, if there's a tribe of, say, uncontacted people in the jungle somewhere, if a 747 comes in and crashes, they're not going to know what the hell it is. They may take it and maybe use the wings to make a boat, you know, maybe use the propellers as knives. Don't you feel like we'd probably be in the same position when this technology that perhaps thousands of years ahead of what we have
I think
crashes?
I think it would be different, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't think that those people, the like, let's say you're talking about the indigenous people. Let's say the people from like Sentinel Island. I know that that's one of the islands where, and actually they just wrote an article about one of the last guys that was a part of an uncontacted tribe somewhere, and they followed him around where he was. What he was doing as like the last person and everything. But anyways, besides that, I think it's different because we're actively looking into this thing already, whether we know for it to be this or that or whatever. We're already interested in this thing. Who's to say that those people even give a shit? Like you said, they might look at it as like a resource or something that just lands out of the sky. They don't know what it is. It's anomalous, but maybe they don't look at it from the sense of like, they're not actively thinking about what these things falling out of the sky could be, is where we're already doing that, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, I understand. What do you think, Shane?
I completely lost the question. I was reading the chat and I completely forgot what you were talking about.
Dude, that's why we got
No.
young Chasey, bro.
Oh, I know. I was just
We
reading
got
what
called
Rob
up to
was
the big
saying.
leads, bro.
I know.
No worries.
Okay.
But
Can
to
we
get
start this over?
No, I was gonna say let's start to wrap it up. So we're gonna do a space or whatever
Yeah.
after.
and go.
Um,
I just wanted to say,
yeah,
just to jump in real quick, we've kind of laid out our vision for this podcast, and like I said, we really want to include the community. So anything anybody wants to suggest, tweet us, email us, hit up our link tree and see where all of our stuff is. But I
keep
would
it
also
nice.
like to use.
Keep it nice and respectful. We don't need these 5-page
Look.
manifesto rants. Okay, just keep it
Yeah.
nice,
Here's the thing.
respectful. We're here to listen. We're here to connect. So
I'm
You'll
going to
get-
tell you about that when we finish here.
Yeah. If you
You're
guys
not gonna
come
believe
and you
it.
watch our podcast, I promise you that you'll get every one of us being authentic, being the people that we already are, the ones in the spaces, things like that. Once I especially get a little less nervous about this, but speaking to the things that we know that we can speak to. For me, my experience, everything's played into that. So I'm going to constantly ask questions that I want to know. So if you guys have questions, make sure you tweet us, you add us, you do whatever it is, because that's part of it. We want to make sure we include everybody in this conversation.
yeah, and if you want to be like part of the crew, follow us on Twitter and say, hey, will you tag me in things? Will you add me in things? Will you give me a notification when there's a space? So I think that's definitely a good point, Shane. So
I wouldn't say hi to Bill. He's here. I just want to say hi to everybody that is watching us too. It's cool. I enjoy hanging out with you guys. You're my closest friends.
yeah,
You're screwed.
thank you, young Chasey. You're doing a good job. Kyle, you're awesome. JH, thank you. Rob, thank you so much for your sharing a little bit of your own story and everything. Let's see who else we got in here. Study of UAPs, Bill. Let's see here. Chris. Who else? Tara. Thank you for putting up with Shane. Who else we got in here? I think that might be it. We had Logan a little bit earlier. Again, Ocean Emily. Yeah, Nora, screen name. Thank you so much, everybody. You guys are awesome, and gals. Um, so yeah, so that's the whole thing. We're planning on doing the first episode when Shane gets back from his Wounded Warrior trip, and support Wounded Warrior. I don't have the link down there right now, but I will put it in there when we're done.
Donate,
So
guys. They saved
don't
my life along with my family.
donate to Wounded Warrior for sure. And dude, Shane is just, this isn't a Shane love fest, but listen, when Shane started, texting me and he reached out to me and said he liked my podcast and what I was doing, this vibe, like I talk to a lot of people. I've had tons of guests. I've had friends that I've met online. Shane just brings this positivity and great energy and opportunity, because opportunity comes through those avenues. That's, if you want to create opportunity for yourself, there's not a better way to do it than to be genuine, nice, and have a positive attitude and vibe. That's the way to do it, folks. And work hard. That's the other part of it. But
So let everybody know I also scheduled a space for 9:20 p.m. Pacific Standard.
okay, so we're doing a space here shortly. But yeah, so that's the whole thing. And then so Shane connected me with Toby, and Toby's an awesome dude. I love Toby. We've had a 3-way chat going on and a separate 4-way one with Young Chasey. And these are my kinds of people. We're joking, positive vibes. They're really knowledgeable about the UAP UFO stuff. Toby's somehow knows every single person on the planet.
Yeah,
But
Toby's awesome.
but yeah, so the whole thing, again, we've got me, I'm the philosopher, metaphysician. Toby, the investigative journalist. He's going to bring the archives, the people, the whole vibe of Roswell. Shane, the old vet, the grizzled vet. He's been through it all. He's been through hell and back. He's got the story to tell, as well as an experiencer with amazing videos and contributions to the topic, as well as being a Twitter Spaces host and everything. So awesome stuff going on. I'm really excited. Again, Mind Escape's not changing at all. If anything, we're going to be doing longer episodes, having better guests. So don't worry about that. And yeah, I think that this is going to be good for everybody, for the community. We have a positive vibe. It's not going to be drama. There's not going to be hit pieces or, we're not going to have people on to call them out or anything like that. It's not going to be like that at all. This is all positive vibes, good interviews. Yeah, we're going to ask hard questions, but at the same time, yeah, that's just how it goes. So, but yeah, we love everybody. Check out the LinkTree link down below. It's got all the links for all the social media stuff for the new podcast. Again, we don't have an episode yet, but when we do, it'll be up there. So go follow our LinkTree, follow all of our social media stuff. There's a Instagram, a Reddit, a Twitter. Young Chasey's running a Facebook group. There's a Facebook page. Go follow all that stuff. Yeah. Oh, follow Toby. Link down below. RDR Incident at RDR Incident. Follow Shane at Old Vet Symposium, and you can follow me at Mike Escape. I have all the links down below. Shout out to my brother Maurice. He will be back at the end of the month for a Rick Strassman interview. And I'm trying to think, is there anything else that I wanted to say? Yeah,
I'll throw something in.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say we've got some big announcements coming, not just our podcast, but the Roswell Daily Record in general. And through that, we're going to be providing opportunities for the UFO community to participate, win access to this, be part of what we're doing. It's time we give back to the community, because without the UFO community, what are we doing?
Yeah. And thank you again. Big thanks to the Roswell Daily Record. They're going to be sponsoring the podcast. We went with the boss. She's awesome. She's a very nice lady. She wants to be a part of this as well. And the whole vibe's amazing. So I'm very excited. And yeah, I'm really excited to see how this thing grows. and yeah, bringing people together. That's what it's all about. So, but we'll wrap
I
it up
just wanted to
here.
say
Oh yeah,
say
go
bye to
ahead.
everybody. I'm gonna give you guys a hug. Good night.
This guy's got more Bigfoot hats than anybody I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, we love. So this is the way we end all of the mind escapes, and I'm sure we'll come up with a new thing for the Roswell UFO Symposium. But the way I end all of the podcasts on here is, we love everybody. Stay safe out there, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.